So Russia has been turned into a pariah state. And just to prove how far, a withering speech in the last few moments from the European Commission chief Ursula von der Leyen. She said for the first time the EU would be financing and delivering weapons to a country under attack and would sanction Belarusians, helping Moscow's war effort. Well, our business and global trade correspondent, Paul McNamara, is here. Tell us a little bit about the impact of all these sanctions.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole raft of them that have just been announced. The most eye-catching ones, shutting down EU airspace for all Russian aircraft. This is Russian-owned, Russian-registered, more importantly, Russian-controlled aircraft. So any oligarchs with their private jets, this is them. There's also a ban in the EU, the Kremlin's what they call media machines. So this is state-owned Russia Today, RT, and Sputnik. Remember, government's already asked Ofcom to review RT's licence in the UK. And this is on top of a whole load of sanctions which have already been announced. So, the first one, of course, is SWIFT. This is one that everyone's been talking about for days. This is the secure messaging system so that banks can transfer money around the world. This is a big deal. 11,000 financial institutions are on this. Tens of millions of transfers every single day. Cut a financial institution off from this. You're not killing all their international transactions, but you're making it pretty difficult. Now, we don't know actually which banks, we haven't announced yet which banks are going to be targeted. We suspect there's going to be the two biggest banks, the Spear Bank and VTB. These ones that were already targeted by American sanctions on Thursday. Big question over Gazprom Bank. This is the bank which is really interwoven into Russia's oil and gas industries. We don't think they're going to be included because that would impinge on oil and gas supplies, which everyone's very, very worried about. Now, look, about a month ago, I was talking to a city trader about all sanctions when everyone was talking about it. And he said to me, look, the biggie is SWIFT. Everything else is peanuts. I got a text from him this morning saying, I can't believe they've actually done it.
What are the other sanctions, though, and how serious are they?
Well, actually, the other financial sanction might have a bigger impact than SWIFT. So this is US, UK, Canada joint statement saying that they would block Russia's central bank from using roughly £630 billion of stockpiled foreign reserves. This is like their financial war chest to insulate them from sanctions. This is going to have a big impact. Without this, Russia can't prop up their economy. They can't prop up the ruble, which has been tumbling for days now since all of this kicked off. Today, we've seen footage of people queuing up round the block in Moscow to get hold of any cash, rubles, dollars, anything that they can get their hands on. Make no bones about it, together, these financial sanctions will have a big impact.
And there is some breaking news tonight about BP.
Yeah, the news keeps on coming today. So BP owns about 20% of Rosneft, which is a Russian oil and gas giant. Rosneft is the oil and gas giant that is fueling the Russian army. On Friday, the business secretary pulled in Bernard Looney from BP, saying, essentially giving him a bit of a dressing down, saying, what are you doing? 2 days later, BP are divesting.
Paul, thanks very much for that. Paul.
Well, as we said at the beginning of the programme here from Lviv, there's an awful lot of history being crammed into one day these days. And one of those bits of history today was Germany's decision not just to send arms to combat zones like Ukraine, but also to increase its military budget to 100 billion euros. Now, this is a huge amount of money, which means, if I've got my maths right here, that Germany leapfrogs other European countries like Britain and France, but also even Russia in terms of military expenditure. It's a big deal because Germany has finally managed to step over the very long shadow of its very dark history. Well, joining me now is the German Green MEP, Viola von Kramon, who's currently in Baghdad on official business. She's part of the Ukraine delegation in the European Parliament and was there just earlier this month. Viola, it's good to speak to you again. Put this into context. How big a deal is this?
Well, I think this is a complete shift in the paradigm in the political arena in Germany. We have never experienced that reality kicks in and that obviously the Chancellor was ready to react very swiftly, very firmly and immediately. I can only say that some of my colleagues were obviously also surprised by his proposal, and we will see how everyone is going to deal with this. But nevertheless, I think that was the right signal to everyone in the European Union that we are a reliable partner, but also to Putin that he cannot, I mean, or we need to kick his ass at one moment.
Okay, interesting language there. I mean, it's fascinating to me that the German government seems to prevaricate, and of course the Greens are members of the German coalition government. They prevaricate, they get criticized by their friends and allies, and suddenly they do more than was expected. That was the case with Nord Stream 2, and that's certainly the case when it comes to rearmament.
Well, the rearmament was a very lengthy debate, and it's not a secret that some of us were in favor for a longer time, but it was really, and it's difficult in the German public, but also amongst many politicians to explain why we have to, let's say, ease this self-defending or this principle on not delivering weapons in conflict zones and in war zones. And I think after this massive attack from Putin's troops, everyone understood that we need to use all means which we have on hands to strengthen the self-defense capacities of Ukraine. And I know that already tomorrow we will see parts of that weapons will be delivered to Ukraine, which is extremely important.
But Viola, this is also a very emotional issue, a very vexed issue for many Germans, is it not? I know this from my own family. And your leader, Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock, I think was in tears today when the announcement was made. Again, tell us what's going on in your soul, as it were.
Well, you know, we have most of the meetings after this interview now. So I know only from our chat groups how the moods are. But what I understood, this is that, as I said, I mean, this massive attacks, these pictures, these videos we have seen from Ukraine over hours, over days now, really made people rethink and reconsider, each and every one. And even amongst the public now in Germany, while a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we had surveys where we asked, would you ready to defend Ukraine? And it was only 20%. And now it's the opposite. Now we have 75% of being in favor. So the complete, I would say, mood and atmosphere, the environment has completely changed.
Henry Kissinger, rather unkindly, I think, once described Germany as a political dwarf and an economic giant. Has that now changed? Are you punching at your political weight?
Well, yeah, I think we should be up to, but I mean, for now, it is the proposal of the Chancellor. I hope we can also then deliver in terms of laws. But yes, I think that people understood if we stay an economical dwarf and not a political giant, we are very, let's say, vulnerable. We will not, I mean, preserve this standard of living and even our democratic standards, our European values. And there's a lot on stake at the moment in the European Union. And I think that is why Scholz finally came up with this very terrific and maybe also unexpected speech today.
All right. In one line, can we expect Germany to take more of a leadership role on the international stage in foreign policy?
Well, I think this is what has been proved today. I saw a lot of very impressive speeches by many colleagues in the German Bundestag. I would say yes.
Viola von Kramon, thank you very much indeed. Well, first thing this morning, the United Nations said that at least 368,000 refugees had already left Ukraine, a number which has been rising by the hour. Ukraine's neighbors have been hastily building reception centers and readying hospitals. Our correspondent Porrick O'Brien is in Ubla, just over the Slovakian border, and reports a short time ago.
So we've just crossed from Slovakia through the border crossing here into Ukraine, and I must say, for me, this is the first time the scale of this humanitarian crisis has dawned. There are a few hundred people queuing up to try to get into Slovakia, but if you look at the traffic, that is an enormous queue. We've been told it goes about 30 miles in that direction. The sun is going down, it is getting cold, people are tired, people are tense. One of the people we've just met here is Senya. She is from Kiev. Senya, you're here with a group of friends and family.
Yep.
What is your message to people watching this?
Please help Ukraine, fight with us. It's good that you support us with the words and you pray for us, but we definitely need some actions. To survive with this fight, we need the protection, we need the most of the support you can give us. With weapons, with, I don't know, money, like,
Yeah.
please, not only the words.
Yeah. So Senya, that's the big political message. How are you feeling yourself?
Angry. My house is lost. I need to go with my family outside, so that's hard. But we'll survive, right?
When are you hoping to get through the barrier just here?
In an hour or two.
In an hour or two. Okay.
We already stand it for 4.
For 4 hours.
So
okay.
I think like that would be our time to get.
Okay. Senya, thank you very much for that.
Thanks a lot.
So the crash and bang of war is one thing, but the slow grind of it is another thing entirely. And that's what we're really seeing here. This is what war does to people's lives, basically.